Mr. Young and asked them to put together the same information that was given to the committee members on the morning that we moved this forward. And then again, in following with that same indulgence, I would like an opportunity to address from the perspective of the committee chair what we addressed. There were some good questions on the morning of the Transportation Committee regarding this and the process. And there were, Ms. Keshke is waiting on an answer, although this morning a gentleman provided that information. It looks like Watson Lawrence was done in 2005 that provided the information about a fatality and some of the accidents. And that was the one question that I felt we were looking, continuing to look for an answer on. But Mr. Provenzano's very good and tactical question was addressed by Mr. Breeden from his own area of expertise, sharing what the state would have had to look at before they ever move forward on an intersection improvement. But again, those questions were asked and answered, and in defense of my colleagues, I don't believe that any one of them responded out of frustration, but responded out of the fact that they were very comfortable with making that decision at that point in time. I did make a comment that I believed, you can say the train left the station, the ship left the dock, but I also followed that, and so you're not hearing the entire conversation. I also made explanation why at the Transportation Committee in 2010, I personally drive Fleming Road to come to the county 2-3 occurrences a week. And I take that Fleming Road intersection onto 120, and I, unlike the gentleman who did not have a problem with the delay time that he has waited, I have waited a long period of time, and there have been many occurrences when I have not waited. I have chosen to maybe rashly pull out onto 120, and I've had some near misses. And what I said is when this letter of intent came forward to the Transportation Committee, I was pleased that the state had identified an intersection in the county that I personally have experience with, and I was all for moving this forward. Thank you very much. Invest in McHenry County, and specifically in a project that would improve the safety at an intersection that I have personal experience with. So again, you heard some of the comments that were made, but you didn't hear the entire discussion at the committee. And and I guess you have the option of going on to YouTube and seeing what was there. But again, if Mr. Karpolsky and Mr. Young would address the information that you provided to committee members, maybe the other county board members would have additional questions as a result of it, or maybe that would answer a lot of the questions.
Joe.
I will go through what we presented at the TC and how we ended up at this point. Its process, again, as Anna May has alluded to. Back in November of 2010, we brought forward for the committee's consideration the letter of intent that IDOT asked us to bring forward, which is standard on all projects and where there's cost participation. At that November meeting, we covered the options of whether or not to reconstruct or just widen and resurface the legs of the intersection that were going to be part of this project. The left turn lane was going to be added onto Fleming Road. So the discussion focused on whether or not we should reconstruct the pavement or just widen and resurface. The direction provided to me as the county engineer was go ahead and sign that letter of intent. That letter of intent was signed the same day as that meeting, and it was sent to IDOT. That's what IDOT would use to move forward with their plans and continue to move forward with the project. After that meeting, as part of the 2011 Highway Improvement Program, the project was included in the Highway Improvement Program also. And dollars were set aside based on that November direction. So what came forward again was the final agreement here, again, processed and by IDOT policy, is they need to send it to us and it needs to be executed. That was done. It was sent to the state's attorney's office for review and approval. We secured that. Then it was brought forward for the Transportation Committee's consideration. That's how we ended up where we are today.
Anything further?
No, I just would ask Joe, they made comment about the contract that was signed a week before the Transportation Committee. Is there a line, is there a responsibility? Was the contract for the bid only, between the bidder and IDOT, or are we participating in that contract as well?
We do not handle anything from the contract side of this. This is an agreement between IDOT and us for our participation in the signal and also the improvements to Fleming Road. This is an IDOT project. This is not a McHenry County project.
So the fact that IDOT signed it based on the letter of intent that they had received from the county board, and the traffic engineer, was based on the fact that they assumed that we would continue our support of a project that we had indicated initial support for.
I cannot speak for IDOT on what it is, but they based it on what the letter of intent was, yes.
But it wasn't, we will not find a contract that has the signature from somebody from McHenry County on it.
No.
Correct, thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Ms. Hill, please.
Thank you, Ms. Miller, that was a lot of my questions. The last one that I had was, what would be the step, Joe, if we thought it was still too big of an impact on Fleming Road as the direction we've seen, and we decided we did not want to participate in a contract with the state of Illinois and do our share? What would be the result of what would happen?
We would have to bring it back to their attention that this county board rejected the agreement, and I don't know what their steps may be. It may be up to and including, they have at their disposal, they could garnish our MFT allotments that come to us as the direction was previously provided by the letter of intent to move forward with this. Or they can revise the plans potentially also.
Okay, so the letter of intent did obligate the county to some level.
That's what IDOT was basing on moving forward with the improvements to the side of Fleming Road.
Because I guess my question is in the process, it feels like I'm rubber stamping a vote now based on what the steps happened beforehand. And I don't know if that's IDOT's process or our process. And you said they may garnish our MFT funds, doesn't mean they will.
Right.
I'm questioning the process, but I'd like to hear from my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fish.
It seems like there's two issues here. I know that at the very first Fleming public meeting, it was an idea to have a like one train in Fleming. And at that time, I don't recall the public, I was against it. I'm sort of hearing two arguments now. But let's assume that this is going to be done. Is there still, despite the levy, is there an opportunity for IDOT to hold a public meeting and have the public and the committee review the design? I think that the quarrel probably is over the design rather than whether the light exists or not. And I got the impression at our meeting that since they had left the contract, that there was no way to get out of that. Or I don't recall a public meeting either that solicited public comment on the design, not whether or not the light exists. Is there an opportunity to change the design?
To your question on whether or not there's a public meeting, I don't want to speak to what IDOT policy is or whatever it is, but IDOT doesn't have a public meeting or a public hearing for every intersection project. They just don't have the resources and the staff to do that. The process is when they identified their design, and I believe that it was done in-house, is that they send out letters to affected property owners.